What's up, townies? It's Stark, Reid, and Nolan as Zach can't make the show. But this week, we discuss the Travelers Championship, Keegan Bradley's resurgence, more Ricky Fowler, and low scores. We then welcome Caddie, Colby, Tucker, Norman to the show to shoot the breeze. And finally, we'll close things off by giving our picks and previewing the Rocket Mortgage Classic, as well as answering some listener questions and giving our Bogey'd plays of the week.
Oh boy, look where he's hit it. This is serious.
This is hard to watch.
You know, building sandcastles in the sand.
What happens is you have this sense of embarrassment.
That's a shank. He decided to re-tee. That's a shank. Oh, man.
But I'm surprised he mishit it that badly. Wow.
Alrighty, guys, let's get into it. Another amazing week of golf, an elevated event, a mixture of favorites and blasts from the past littered the leaderboard this weekend, and Keegan Bradley came out on top. Nolan, what did you think of Bradley's performance this weekend?
I always like seeing Keegan come poke his head back up there. It was a crazy tournament. Everyone was going low. You had to go nuclear on that course. It felt like birdies were just plentiful. It's always fun to see Keegan, though, because it always resurfaces that little interaction he had with Michael Jordan, because obviously Keegan's a Jordan brand ambassador there, wearing the Air Jordans on the course. And I think Keegan once poked fun at MJ for, I think they play together, obviously, and Keegan always beats him, of course. MJ has the last laugh, always saying, well, you don't see me wearing any Air Keegans, Mr. Bradley. So, yeah, let's remember who's paying you there for those spiffy shoes. But, yeah, I mean, Keegan and his antics, his weird tradition, or his pre-shot routine, I should say. It's always wild to see him up there. But he's having a really good year. He's making a name for himself for, Ryder Cup picks and all sorts of things. So he has a really cool story and pathway to the PGA Tour, and his first event ever, was it his first ever event he played on the PGA Tour was the PGA Championship that he won, or that was his first win. I know that for sure, but
major, first major.
Yeah, first major, and he won it. It's like incredible things we see from him. Just an all-out blitz of the field. He got the lead and hung on and felt comfortable. A little bit of, in my opinion, a bit of a snooze on that Sunday, kind of watching him coast to a victory. But yeah, all in all, really great field. The course just couldn't hold itself together, though. What do you guys feel like when you see guys just annihilate a course like that? Everyone, what was the cut? The cut is at 4 under, I want to say. I thought Morikawa, one of my guys I had picked this week, he shot like a 6 or 7 under to back. He hit, what was it? He shot 4 over on Thursday and 7 under on Friday. And I thought, oh man, let's go. He made the cut. Maybe he's going to have a hot weekend and backdoor into this top 20 or whatever. Nope, he didn't even make the cut because he missed it by 1. What did you guys think of the course this week?
Well, I've been there. I've been there caddying. And while I'm always one to bitch about tournaments going super deep, I like this golf course. Having been there, I should say. And it's a fun track. There's a lot of opportunity. You can make a lot of birdies, but you can also hit it in the water. The stadium set of the golf course, I'll call it, is fun. There's a lot of interaction with the crowd. I don't mind it once in a while. And I think this is a perfect venue to see it at, because there is, especially on the front 9, 1, 2, going down 10, 11, 12, there's some elevation change, and so there's some good viewing points where you can see multiple holes and that kind of stuff. So I enjoy the golf course. That being said, Nolan, I don't like that kind of scoring all the time. I just don't think it's that entertaining.
You look at the top 3 guys, Keegan Bradley, Zach Blair, Brian Harmon, all of them shot in the 60s in all 4 rounds. I think it was just bad timing. We come off the U.S. Open where, scores were lower than most U.S. Opens to start anyway. Still ended around that -9, -10. And there was a lot of people complaining about it. A lot of people bitching and moaning that scores were too low at a U.S. Open. And then the next event, which is an elevated event, it just gets torched. -23 wins it, oddly enough. Michael Jordan reference there. But, I mean, you got guys like Scotty who were all in the, had one round in the 70s. You had Cantley were all in the 60s. I mean, Rory was 68, 64, 66, 64, and he was T7. And he said it, the best afterwards, where he believes this course maybe is just, it's a great course and it's fine for your regular golfers, but the pros just torch it, especially after a little bit of rain, and they could stick that ball nice and tight on Saturday specifically when they had to bunch up all the guys and tee them off fronts and backs. I just think that watching a tournament like that, unless it's really tight and you got 4 or 5 guys that are all around -23, Sunday was a snoozer. These elevated events have been great because we've seen stacked leaderboards and guys chasing each other down and leader changes and all that. We didn't get this week. We didn't get the big names. No offense, Zach Blair and even Keegan, to be honest. And we didn't get any sort of race. I mean, really, Keegan was up 6 strokes, but he had a bad last 2 or 3 holes that he actually made it somewhat close. Really, he had this won by the 10th or 11th hole on Sunday. So tough viewership, tough weekend for the PGA Tour coming off of the U.S. Open. I think that's why people were upset about the low scores.
I think we need more of that golf course's hole number 15 in the world. Gettable par 4, but you can also make 5 in a blink of an eye. You know what I mean? As far as tour level stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's sloping into the water, but if you hit a good shot, it's going to get rewarded. And I just think that one of those, a golf course, makes it pretty entertaining in itself.
And the weather's such a factor. I mean, Reid, you'd know this too. I mean, we talked about the U.S. Open and how, they had the marine layer so guys could go after it. Or they had a little bit of rain this week. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? If they can't make the greens fast and make the ball bounce right off it on their approach shots, it's indefensible. Some of these courses, there's nothing that people can do. But, we take a look at the leaderboard. Some great names still were hunting around. And I think we should probably start. Nolan, what do you think? Should we start with Rickie Fowler? Another great week. I mean, he's playing good golf, T13. He finished -16. He had 3 rounds in the 60s, including a 60 on Saturday. Oh, so close to that 59. Safe to say Fowler's back, Nolan?
Rickie Fowler, man, he's back. The flat bills, the joggers, the high tops. I want it all. I want the orange. Let's grow out the long hair again. I mean, like you were saying, people were all after this course. It was funny you brought up the all the guys in the 60s. I think I tallied it up. It was something like 27 or 33 guys shot 4 rounds in the 60s. I mean, incredible stuff out there. Brian Harmon shot a 66 twice and a 64 twice and finished 3 shots back at Keegan. Unreal stuff. But yeah, Rickie. The one thing I will say, was it on the last hole on that Saturday, did he lay up on that short par 4? That's what I think I saw. I was only watching on Shot Tracker.
Yep.
I think it's a 400-yard par 4, and he hit it something out there 230 or something. I was like, man, you're going for a 59. Pull out the big dog, let it eat, and let's see what happens. It's only a little flip wedge if you hit it out there 300 yards. So I got a little mad at my computer. I didn't really know what was going on because I wasn't watching the broadcast, but I was like, what is he doing? He's laying up on a last hole to go for a 59, but glad to see him back. Obviously. What do you guys think? I mean, I think we talked about it recently, could Rickie win his major championship soon? I think a lot of us were on no way, just given the talent out there, but he's making a name for himself too often and putting his name on the leaderboards to count him out for too much longer.
There is a tournament across the pond in a couple weeks. that Mr. Fowler's game has always played well at. And he hits it low, and he flights it, and he chases it, and he's good around the greens. British Open.
He might be definitely a guy to circle there. I wanted to ask you, Reid, as a caddy, former caddy, the one thing that's been real noticed about Ricky recently is his water bottle routine. So he's got this massive Yeti that I'm assuming is full of water. Who knows what's in there? Maybe it's some Gatorade.
The juice,
yeah, that he needs, some coffee, whatever it is. And his caddy has to like lug this around and after every shot hand it to him. Do you think that's a conversation they have beforehand where Ricky's like, hey, listen, every round now I need this water bottle with me. As soon as I'm done shooting, hand it back to me. Like, is that a conversation around little things that players and caddies have?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always nicks and crannies like, hey, I need to add this to part of the schedule, or I need to eat protein bars on first 4 holes and last 4 holes or whatever. I mean, everyone always has, you know what I mean? And if your player asks you to do that, I mean, he's the one paying you at the end of the day. And so I'm all in on it. You know what I mean?
It's weird to see, but seems like it's working for him. Another guy I wanted to mention that we've now talked about a lot, just always being in the hunt, a T4 for Scottie Scheffler. Only 1 round at 70, the rest in the 60s. Could he have been a contender with some putting? Again, maybe, another, I think it's been top 12 in every event he's played in since like October.
Yeah, it's like 15 events or something? I don't know.
Yeah, and he's already over 14 million earned with a whole bunch of golf still left to play.
Just typical Scottie fashion. Just, it doesn't seem like he's like playing incredible golf, but it is. It's incredible golf. It's the most consistent season we've seen since a guy like Tiger Woods was stalking the grounds out there. It's super impressive. It needs to be talked about more. This guy has the game to be one of the greatest ever if he can rattle off some major championship victories here. I mean, obviously that's what we measure these guys' careers in, so it's going to be important for him to buckle down here and maybe, could you imagine he has this season and doesn't even notch a major championship? We got one more.
That would be wild.
Yeah. He's going to be a heavy favorite for sure again. But, it's hard to do. It's hard to get those major championships. It doesn't matter how good you are. Tiger was beating guys by 15 strokes any given week, and, he couldn't get to Jack's record. So it's tough out there. Tough out there for a top dog when you're expected to win every single week. But, yeah, he's got a great head on his shoulders. It seems like he doesn't get rattled by anything. So I expect, greatness out of that guy. He's still young, so see if he can notch some major championships though.
I agree with that, but my thing is he's putting up ball striking numbers that are Tiger-esque and comparable, and in some regards maybe better than Tiger ball striking. And you're going to have a guy that has that much success and that much talent striking the golf ball, repetitively finishing top 10, top 10, top 10. I can tell you right now that Scottie Scheffler doesn't want to finish top 10. And when he sees himself, first in strokes gained off a tee, first in strokes gained into the green, first in scrambling, or whatever the hell is. You look down a list of categories of ball striking, and it's Scottie Scheffler 1 or Scottie Scheffler 2 or Scottie Scheffler 4 or Scottie Scheffler 3. It gets to a point where now it's going to start. I think it gets to a point where it starts impeding his confidence a little bit. You hit it to 10 feet 7 times around and make one of them or 2 of them around for that long, and you keep missing a win by 3 or 4 shots every week. That eats at you. And I know that he's still going to have a crazy good season. He's still going to be around number 1 in the world, but he has had the capability and the open door to put it away to be number 1 in the world by as much as anyone since Tiger. And he hasn't done that. And I think we're all waiting for Scottie to really put his foot down and say, no, look, fuck all these other guys. They're all good, but I'm the best. And win 2 out of 3 or win 3 or 4 in a short time frame, or win a couple majors, or close on a Sunday, in a massive tournament as of recent. Obviously, as of recent, we've seen it in the past. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes, because I mean it's the same trend every week. And if I was his instructor and his coach, I mean he would come to work with me and we would spend 6 hours on the one thing that needs work. Obviously the other stuff doesn't really need to be touched. Sure, you have your A days and your B- days and whatever, but he doesn't get really much below that.
A lot of players would be dying to have Scotty's year, as we discussed, winning lots of money and great finishes. Someone we talked about last week who's just battling now to get into the FedEx Cup playoffs, that championship, Justin Thomas. Last time we saw him at the U.S. Open, he beat one amateur, I believe. He shot an 81. He starts out this tournament shooting a 70, and we know that was deep trouble, looking like another missed cut, but he comes back with 64, 62, gets himself to a T9, and he seemed to have said something afterwards in an interview that, hey, you know what, I think I found something and playing a little bit better. He seemed to be a little bit happier, a little pep in his step. He's obviously got his boy, Ricky Fowler, doing good, and they were having fun out there. So I'm hoping Thomas has kind of turned a corner and played well and starting to move towards the elite player that he's been in the past, get out of this funk. It's nice to see these guys kind of go through these ups and downs, and he's one of those guys that's been playing very well this weekend, which hopefully will push him through to his next few tournaments. I know he's going to play in Detroit and then move on towards the next big major. I couldn't think of another guy better to join us for this other than the one and only Colby Tucker Norman. How the hell are you, Colby?
I'm good, man. How are you boys?
We're doing great. Now, Colby is a caddy out on the Korn Ferry Tour. Why don't you tell us whose bag are you on right now and how's the season been going?
So I caddy for Will Bateman. It's actually his rookie year, but he's born and raised in Canada and won the Canadian Tour points list last year. Did a really good job out there last year. So we've been rocking since the first tournament this year in Exuma, and started out the year really, really well. Like 2 top 4s out of the first 3 events, and then ended up kind of had like a little freak injury while he was doing a little bit of yoga, which set him back a little bit, but tried to power through it and, played through a little bit of pain for, 2 to 3 weeks. But that's finally behind us now. So he's finding his groove again.
That's why I stay away from yoga. I don't want to wreck my golf game at all.
Same here, dude. Same here.
That's where I was going with it. I mean, I was going to say sometimes we all get some too much upward dog or downward dog in our life, and the hips get a little achy.
Yeah, I'm a natural yoga guy.
Right. Hey, Colby. So, for our listeners that we obviously have had you on before, and we love having you on, and obviously you're one of my good buds, and I always cheer for you and whatever. But what do you see in the change of golf? And I say in the change of golf with people hitting it further, and kind of everything. The game of golf changing in a sense over the past, let's call it 10 years. What makes those guys that make it to the top? What does it actually, what are the differences, and how minute is it, or how big is it, or what kind of differences stick out?
For me, from what I've seen, everything around the greens, going from on the greens putting to those little 30, 40 yard short game shots. I've just seen, the guy that just won last week, Jimmy Sanger, caddied for him for a while, and his short game is just, I've always thought it was just unbelievable. But hitting it a long ways, especially I feel like on the Korn Ferry goes a long ways, because we do see, a lot of guys that hit it a long way, but just can't score it. So, a lot of that scoring stuff comes from that wedge, that 120, 150 and in, and then stuff on the greens that I was talking about earlier. But luckily, the guy that I'm with now, Will, he puts it in the hole pretty damn well. So that's just something that I've definitely noticed in my years out there, that, you can hit it long all you want. You don't want to hit it short, but hitting it, 340 as opposed to 315, I don't, personally, I don't think that's really, that much more of an advantage until you get to a place that might be just sopping wet, super soft, so.
Yeah, the course setup has to be such an intriguing thing when you first get to it and you look at it and figure out, how's my golfer going to react to these, to this layout? Is it going to help him? Is it going to hurt him? Is he hitting the ball left to right, right to left? There must be so many different things when you first get to the course that that your golfer needs to know. What are some of the top 3 things that you look at when you get to a course that you're like, hey, my guy needs to know this, this, and that?
I would say, definitely sight lines off tees, just like, so my guy's a lefty that loves to cut everything throughout the bag. So, if we get to a course that is, it's going to have a bunch of left to right holes, that might, end up being somewhat of an issue with Will, just, personally speaking, just because, he likes to cut everything. So if there's, if the hole is going left to right and he's a lefty, that means he has to kind of sling a draw in there, which isn't, it's not something that he can't do, but it's something that we, that's just not really part of our game plan. A perfect example of that would be 4th event of the year in Bogota. There's 2 courses, and the short course is, as they call it, I think there's, 14 non-par 4s. And 10 or 11 of those are just straight left to right off the tee. So we're kind of handcuffed right off the bat. So, but to answer your question, the first thing would be, sight lines. I like to just check out, bunkers throughout all 18 holes, whether they're going to be playable,
how fitting,
not playable, or just, easy bunkers or hard bunkers.
How fitting you're talking about bunkers on the old Bunkertown.
Bunkertown. That's right. Yeah. That's a shout out. But yeah, so sidelines, bunkers, and probably just, the typical layout of the greens, whether if they're going to be front to back to front, left to right, right to left, just the general stuff. I'm pretty fortunate. My guy's a very, very, very much a field player. So he just, I feel like whether he's seen the course 50 times or none at all, he could go out there and shoot closer around the same score.
Colby, we know your guy Will, Canadian. We are a Canadian contingent podcast for sure. We were all tuned into the Canadian Open this year. It was a big tournament. Congratulations to the Maple Leafs up there. Yeah, your guy Will made some noise there. Shot a 6 under, make the cut. Tell us a little bit what was going through that round, what was clicking well for him and you guys together. That was a special probably moment for you guys to get through the cut there at such a prestigious event.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just felt so privileged to be a part of that, because he had so much of his family and friends out to watch on and to support. And that was one of the things he told me at the very beginning of the year whenever we decided to, that we were going to work together. Was that he was going to be playing that event. And so me, knowing he's Canadian, it was brought up quite a few times, just kind of here and there, just throughout, the entire, from January up to the Canadian Open. But I could just tell that he was super excited, a little bit of nervous going in, just because that was his first national Open. But man, that it was a little tough on Thursday going out. I think he shot 2 over, and it looked like the cut was going to be, I think 1 to 3, 1 to 2, more realistically. And he just got, I think he shot 5 under on the front 9 on Friday morning. So we were late early, so that means we were early Friday morning and shot 5 under on what is the back 9 of that tournament. But I was like, holy crap, buckle up and let's go. And, he ended up, by the time we made the turn and teed off of 1, which was our 10th hole, that's kind of right by where a bunch of people walk in and out of the tournament. And there was, more people by that tee box than I've ever seen, by one certain tee box. And, he just striped it down the middle and then hit it up to it was 25 feet. And he just bangs this putt in from 25 feet to birdie 6 of the last 10 or 6 of the last 9 or something crazy. And he comes up to me and he's like, dude, forget making the cut. Let's go win.
Yeah.
It's just goosebumps, because there's hundreds of people there that are watching on that green. And, with it being in Canada, people are showing
That's
up.
a caddy orgasm for the first time.
Oh my gosh. It was unbelievable, man. It was, there's so many people watching that, that number 1 green, which again was our 10th hole. And, as soon as he made it, you could just tell there were Canadians in the fans. They just went absolutely nuts.
I love that first hole too, because you're teeing up so high, you're hitting it way down, and then you got to go straight back up to the green. You can't even see your ball land on the green from the fairway.
No, not at all.
You don't even know. You need the crowd to cheer, right?
Yeah, exactly. There was, I think it was either Saturday or Sunday, he hit a shot into there that we thought was going to be tap in. And it just got we just hear crickets. Because sometimes, the crowd cheers for 30 footers, but then they don't cheer for 5 footers. So you never know. So we're who knows? It's probably just 10 feet. They just want you to make it from 110 yards out. And it is crazy. But it's a good hole. The whole course was awesome.
What did you think about the 14th hole, the rink hole with all the Canadian fans around on the weekend? Will being Canadian, I'm sure was buzzing each time you guys came up to that par 3 with everyone banging on the boards and singing the anthem and cheering on. What was it like for there? Get the hair on the back of your neck standing up a bit?
Absolutely, man. And I bleed red, white, and blue. But whenever we showed up to the hole Thursday, Friday, it was a little calm. Just because, I think with it being, I think, the Rorys are out there playing and all the other, big time PGA Tour Canadians are playing. So we didn't have that big of a crowd, but they were banging on the boards and everything. But then Saturday and Sunday was a completely different story, especially Saturday with him, being, playing well and being a, Canadian in the Canadian Open. That was the coolest thing I've ever witnessed on a golf course by far so far was just, him being Canadian. And I went the extra step and, he has this company, out of Edmonton, I believe, that makes him, towels and club head covers. And they all have some type of Canadian, emblem on them. And so his towels were these white towels with red and black Canadian leaves all on them. So I went the extra step without asking him to just drape it over the bag, walking up to the tee box. And sure enough, on Saturday and Sunday, they were just banging on the boards and going nuts. And then they started singing the national anthem to him. And it was just, his mom actually got a video of it where you can see me and him looking around and just kind of soaking it all in. And then we just look at each other and kind of shake our heads, just like, man, this is incredible. It was by far the coolest thing I've ever been a part of when it comes to a golf tournament. So the Canadians showed up.
That Friday round was incredible to say the least. You got, like you were saying, you guys were 7 under through 11 holes, probably trying not to think of that magical 59 number at that point. You guys must have taken a lot of confidence out of that week, I'm sure, hanging up there with the PGA Tour pros. Has that helped you guys moving forward in the coming weeks?
It really goes back to the 2 or 3 weeks before that, where he was, ball striking it, like 2000s Tiger. But for whatever reason, his putter was really hot, really cold, really hot, really cold. So, but the ball striking, if you hit it well, that eventually one week the putts are going to go in. So going into that week, I told him about 2 or 3 weeks before, I was like, hey man, you're hitting it good enough to where I feel that we could go into Saturday or Sunday in contention, and that we can't be surprised by that. So let's plan on that and see how it goes. And sure enough, he did what he did on Friday, and he was uber confident coming into the week. Nervous Monday, Tuesday, but I think once the practice rounds kind of got out of the way, he realized that it was just another golf tournament. Obviously the talent is better on the PGA Tour from top to bottom, but he earned the spot to be there. He didn't get an exemption. It wasn't like a sponsor's pick or anything. He won the Canadian Tour, by a long shot the year before to earn that spot, and so he knew he deserved to be there. And he's a confident guy, and I feel like that's what's going to be very helpful for them or for him in the and as far as his career goes.
Well, we know that golf, obviously, and I know golf, and it encompasses, when you're caddying, it encompasses everything. But when you get an off week, where are you spending it? What are you doing? Are you playing golf? Are you fishing? Or what are we doing? What's the daily schedule?
You pretty much just nailed it. I mean, I am. So we're skipping this week, which is Springfield, Illinois this week. There's a tournament this week. We're skipping this one, and then there's an off week next week. So I have essentially, 2 weeks off. So I got here yesterday, drove in from Raleigh. So got here last night, and I will be here from last night till the 5th of June, 5th of July. So that's about 10, 11 days. And I will either be golfing, fishing, or having some drinks, or a combination of the three, like for 10, 11 days straight.
All three at the same time. Just go to Sawgrass.
I thought, Sawgrass right now, unfortunately, stadium's closed. But I mean, I'm 100% going to get some Sawgrass Stadium. I'll get a couple rounds in there before I get out of here for sure.
Colby, what about on the road? How often do you find that caddies kind of get together and group up and either get a house together or go do things together, or even go get dinner together? How important is that to the lifestyle of living a normal life while you're on the road?
For me, it's super important. I got a decent sized circle of guys that I room with pretty much week in and week out. I'd say like a solid rotation of like 8 to 10 guys that we just kind of we love to get Airbnbs, and just it's a little bit cheaper, expense wise, and B, we just when you stay in a hotel room, which hotels are nice from time to time for sure, but when you stay in a hotel room and you go back to the hotel, there's nothing really to do at your hotel except for lay in bed. So for me, I love to have a living room, at an Airbnb, to where we can kind of lounge around and just shoot the bull. And, it makes being away from home a little more homey. Same thing with Airbnbs versus hotels. An Airbnb, although it's not your home, typically everybody's got their own bedroom. You got a shower, living room, kitchen. That's the route that I like to go, and that if I could have it my way every week, then I would definitely do that. But it's definitely important for me.
Sounds like any guys trip I've been on. It is way better when you're in a house, because you're right. Like, you're playing cards around that table.
For sure.
We're playing dominoes. We're playing anything that we can find to gamble on. We're rolling balls up against the wall to get close. So that sounds like a good time. It must be a scene out there, and being on the Korn Ferry Tour, it's not the glamour and lights of the PGA Tour, but I'm assuming your hope is to get there with Will and hopefully move on up and continue to battle and grind it out. How much you guys talk about that, about the future, about tournaments that he thinks he could play in or play well in that he sees on TV? Like, man, that course really sets up well for me. I think I could do good there one day. Are these conversations that caddies and players have?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think it's hard for these guys that, especially, if they're confident enough to know that, whether it's next year and 5 years, whatever, however long that they will be there. But it's a healthy mix. I don't know where the phrase comes from, but be where your feet are. If you sit there and like it could have been so easy for Will to play. The RBC Canadian Open and do well. And then, he's back on the Korn Ferry and now he's, all sad or pissed off. Like, man, like I shouldn't be here. I should be on the PGA Tour. But, that's not how it is, you have to be where your feet are and just take care of the job at hand, which is playing well on the Korn Ferry. And that's something I brought up to him, on Thursday or Friday. I was just like, man, how cool was the Canadian Open? But let's play good enough from here on out to where we play that event every year, because that was just so cool and so fun for him. And but yeah, it's definitely, it's in your dreams, it's in the players' dreams, it's in the caddies' dreams. But I think it's to me, it's more important to just know where you are, know where you stand, be where your feet are, and just take care of the task at hand.
Colby, when the fall rolls around, I know you're Bama guy, right?
Fuck Bama.
What's the expectations for Nick Saban, the Crimson Tide? I know that, speaking of the Canadian Open again, that security guard, what a form tackle we saw on that guy.
I don't know how much eligibility that security guard has left in college, but if he has at least even 1 year left, I'm sure Nick Saban would love a phone call with him. No, when it comes to college football, you guys know I'm a huge Alabama fan, and unfortunately, I kind of let it decide how my weekends go sometime. But
oh yeah, we know how that goes.
I don't want to be that guy, but unfortunately, for Nick Saban and that whole program, like it's national championship game or bust. So it's either you're either playing an SEC championship, and then playing for a natty, or you're like, oh wow, like it's Kirby's time.
Yeah.
So but it is what it is. I enjoy it, and I got a lot of family that's Alabama or Auburn fans, and a lot of family that's Georgia fans. So between the two of those atrocious programs, I've learned to put up with it.
You stick it to them when they're, obviously the Nick Saban tree is pretty famous, the coaching tree. Are you just like, well, you guys just picked off the apple from the Nick Saban tree, so you're welcome anyways.
Yeah, I try to be a good sport about it, but I'm not really one to text, my Georgia friends or my Auburn friends whenever Alabama beats the other.
Sure.
But no, I'm not. But you better believe it that
he sends the old Venmo handle, pay me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How about that $100 bet from like 6 months ago?
Well, Colby, hey, we'll get you out of here on this. We're just curious. We asked a lot of guys this. What's your favorite golf memory, favorite golf moment? Is it something when you were playing, just your buddies, or a competitive match? Or is it a time on the bag that something just really sticks out that was awesome to experience?
For me, it was that 14th hole at the RBC Canadian Open on Saturday. Just for Will to be going in there, as hot as he was, and just all those people there banging on the boards and just screaming "Oh Canada," and me and him being 3 feet from each other, just screaming at the top of our lungs, is it 7-iron or is it 8-iron? And I'm just like, what? Is it 7 or 8? Is 8 enough? And it was just, in the moment you're just trying to caddy, you're working, but and then you look back on it after the round and you're like, oh my God, that was the coolest thing ever. So for me, that was it for me there. That was the pinnacle so far.
That's awesome. And as the Canadian on the show, it's so great to hear an American guy that, really got to experience that and be like, wow, like, golf might not be the biggest thing in Canada, but it means a lot to a lot of people. So for you to experience that, that's so cool and really appreciate it. Biggest takeaway for me is I love that saying, your feet are where they are. So just, live your life the way it is and enjoy the times you're in. So Colby, we really appreciate you coming on, giving us some insight about being a caddy on the Korn Ferry Tour. And we'll be following you and Will and hope for all the best in the future for you guys. Now it's time to get into this week's golf event, and hopefully it can build off the amazing golf we've had the last several weeks. PGA Tour heads to Detroit Golf Club this week. But before we get into who we like and who we probably shouldn't pick given our performance last week, Reid is going to give us his insight into DGC. We'll be playing this week and what to expect.
Detroit Golf Club. I think I was there in 2021 was the last time I was there. Maybe it might have been 2020. The last time we were there was when all the Black Lives Matter stuff was going on. There was actually a march going on around the whole golf course. Within those boundaries of that was a golf course that honestly was one of my favorite on tour. I've caddied at TPC, Sawgrass. I've caddied at Bay Hill, Torrey Pines, Pebble Beach, whatever, what have you. But in the sense of Detroit Golf Club being just a fun golf course, it is in such good shape and it's so much fun to play. And it's kind of like this past week at the Travelers where it's gettable. But I have a memory there where at that, one of my actually the final round there, I believe it was the final round, it might have been the third round. Got to play with DeChambeau, caddy with DeChambeau, and that's when DeChambeau was beefing up and trying to drive greens. And that was the old round where he got in the face of the camera guy, or the camera guy got in the face of him, and there was that whole incident.
Right.
Just to preface, Detroit Golf Club.
Yeah.
So that's my history of Detroit Golf Club. But what I'll tell you, it's a Donald Ross design. It's about 7,000 yards. Par fives are ridiculously gettable. You don't need to be a long hitter. There are some holes that are good driving holes in the sense of you need to be a good shaper of the golf ball, good placement. For instance, 18 is a great driving hole, good finishing hole. It's not an easy second shot. The green has a lot of pitch to it. There's another couple holes. I believe it's number 8, if I remember correctly, has a ton of pitch to it, not very long. So it's going to be a golf course. It's, like I said, the Donald Ross design has some challenging par threes, but is going to be mainly around the green. You're going to have a lot of runoffs, a lot of false fronts, a lot of, if you get on the wrong side of the green, it's pitching straight downhill or out of a bunker straight downhill. But if you keep it below the hole, there's going to be a lot of birdie opportunities. Par fives, there will be eagles. 17, there you will see eagles on 17. There is a chance for a late run here. You have a wedge on a par 3 on, I think it's like 15, if I remember correctly, maybe 14, 15, I believe it's 16 is a great par 4. We have par 5 coming in, and I talked about 18, which is a great finishing hole. So there's some birdie opportunities coming in, but there also is some bogey opportunities if you hit a wrong shot in the wrong place. You don't need to be very long here. Accuracy pays dividends. Placement of golf ball, having the right angle into the green pays dividends. Keeping it below the hole pays dividends. And obviously a good flat stick. Whenever you get on some big slopey greens, the best putters typically win. But yeah, Detroit Golf Club, fun golf course, fun to be around, good crowd. Practice facilities are pretty good. Clubhouse is pretty nice, old school, and have some good memories there.
Yeah, not too many, golf courses or clubs like that right in the heart of the city. It's pretty good. A little bit of look into some storylines for this week. Tony Finau defending his title here at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. His career really took off with a big leap forward after winning the 3M and then the Rocket Mortgage back-to-back weeks last year. We talked about Justin Thomas. He's playing this week. Morikawa also making his debut at this event. He's having a rough go, looking to spark it before going off to the British Open. Ludvig Aberg's playing, and he's got back-to-back top 25s in his first 2 events on the PGA Tour, so look for him. And then Ricky Fowler, obviously playing exceptionally well. Hopefully a win coming soon. The course record, 63. We've seen a lot of low scores lately, 62, 61, 60s the last couple weeks. Nolan, any of those storylines jump out to you that you'll be following this week in Detroit?
Definitely. I mean, field's not as strong as last week. It's not a elevated event, correct? So yeah, we got some new faces, JT and Morikawa. But yeah, Finau defending, I think, is a cool storyline. He's the favorite this week for sure. It's been a bit maybe since we've had a guy defend his title out here on the PGA Tour. It's a tough thing to do. Again, we've been spoiled by Tiger Woods, seeing him defend titles. Like, I mean, he'd win 5 in a row at the same tournament, same event, and we'd think nothing of it. It was just a normal day for Tiger Woods. But we'll look to see him get after this course. Like Reid was saying, gettable par 5s. Tony could smash it out there. We'll see what happens. But yeah, JT and Morikawa, probably Ryder Cup bubble guys right now. I think I was actually talking to a guy on Twitter this week, and there's a stack of maybe 15 guys that you could argue could make that Ryder Cup team. JT and Morikawa, for me, are maybe vying for that's 12th spot. They got to really prove it here. JT had a good Saturday, good finish last week, so maybe he found something. I think I said it before. I'll say it again. The PGA Tour is always better when those guys are playing well, especially JT. He's a crowd favorite. You'd love to see him in the President's Cup too, obviously, with him and Spieth, that tandem that America loves. We don't want to break them up ever, so hoping to see them both play well this week. I guess course record, yeah, that'd be something else. 63 seems, from how these guys were going low last week, seems like 62 is very well an option this week. We'll see what the weather plays out for him. But yeah, I like a lot of these storylines. I think a lot of them are in my picks even.
Reid, anything stick out to you? What about Aberg coming out playing pretty good his first couple of events? Is that a big surprise for kind of new guy on the tour to play that well? Is that something you've seen before?
Yeah, you get these new guys who have talent, right? And they come out and it's one of two things. You either get a guy who has a lot of talent that comes out really slow and it takes him a while to get used to it, and then he becomes a lot bigger. Or you have someone who just doesn't give two fucks and just comes out and they just don't care. And it's hard to say that it'll stick around forever or for a while, but there will be a point where he settles in and he gets kind of comfortable per se, and you'll see some more reality out of him. It won't be every week, I don't think, but to show some talent like that early and quick is impressive.
Yeah, a guy like Sam Bennett, right? Sam's been tearing up as a amateur and into his professional debut here. He finally came back down to earth there last week, missed the cut. But yeah, we've been in the era of the young guns where they come out and they get hot and they don't know what they're doing. They're just shooting low scores and they're winning tournaments. They're winning majors. They don't even know, what pressure is, right? They just kind of flew right past all that pent up anxiety and whatnot that a lot of players have experienced, and we've been able to literally, it feels like in the past, the anxiousness, the dread of like losing a round has been palpable on some Sundays when we've seen guys trying to close out a tournament. But these young kids, they're just focused on one thing, and that's putting the ball in the hole, and it's working out for them. So I'm excited for Aberg this week, especially this week.
I love that you just mentioned Sam Bennett, because let's get right to our picks. And I'll go first because I got Sam Bennett, T20 at plus 450. He had played well leading up to last event and just seemed to struggle. So that's why you're seeing him at great value, but I think he can get up there. There's some space in this event that he could play well at. Another top 20 I have is Adam Hadwin, plus 300. Needs to kind of bounce back after a not so great U.S. Open, I would say. Took a week off. Maybe he's a little sore from his hit at the Canadian Open. And then we go into our top 10s. Two guys that were kind of struggling. First one's Max Homa, top 10 at plus 220. Another missed cut. That's back-to-back weeks. He's fuming. He's coming up here looking to play well before one last major. And then Justin Thomas, T10 at also plus 220. Said he found something. So why not go after it, see if he can climb up this leaderboard. First time at this event scares me, but maybe that's just what he needs, a fresh start. And then my outright winner this week is Hideki Matsuyama. The guy went 69, 64, 65, 66 for a minus 16 this past weekend. What a week. What a 4 rounds. But he was T13, playing well, looking to go good into the British Open as well. So looking for him to win. Nolan, who you got this week?
Dude, yeah, I really like those picks. I'm going young, and I'll start off with Mr. Justin Suh. I'm going T20 at plus 300, rookie out there. So he did really well on the Korn Ferry Tour, and he's had a great year. So keep it rolling with Justin, a guy we've all seen around. He's probably one of the more favored guys, but I'm going to go Sungjae Im to T20 as well. You got plus money on Sungjae at T20, plus 130. I like the sound of that. Great ball striker, so we'll see what he can do out there. And I'm going to go with Mr. It's kind of a little bit out there, but tried to get a little interesting this week. Chad Ramey, I'm going. Found some pretty incredible value out there. T40 plus 260. Not trying to be anything crazy, just T40. We'll see what he can do if he can make the weekend. And then for my outright winner, we've talked about him a lot. I'm going Aberg for the outright winner at plus 5,000. Ludwig, just shock the world, baby. Let's see what happens.
Time to get back into my favorite segment of the show where we get to answer your questions. And before we wrap it up, we will, of course, give you our Bogey'd plays of the week. So let's start it off with our first question from James. We kind of asked a basic topic of discussion on Twitter over the last few weeks at Bunker Township, if you're following us, and it became a bit of a question from James. Will the PGA Tour ever change the rule about relief from fairway divots? Reid, I know you've seen a bunch of divots in your day and filled a bunch of divots. What do you think about this rule?
I'm still sour about it from, I think it was 2019. We were in Indiana, Korn Ferry Tour on 18, making a run at a good tournament. We could birdie to get inside the top 5. At that time, make another, I think it was like $60,000 or $70,000 for the player, which would, equate to X amount of dollars for a caddy, yada, yada. And Mark stripes one down the fairway, lands dead center, just rolling. We're not thinking anything about it. Water's all down the right, water all up the right of the fairway, all the way around the green. I walk up there, probably 250 yards from the front edge of the green, and it's in a fucking divot that's 2 inches deep.
Oh.
I think it will get switched over. I don't think it'll be right now. I think it'll be over time. You are starting to hear more people bitch about it. If you hit it in the rough and you're in a bad lie, you're in a divot, old divot or something, that's one thing. But if you're given a fairway that's supposed to be the most manicured thing on the golf course, if you land a ball in the fairway and it creates a pitch mark, and then it trickles out of that pitch mark and runs down the fairway 8 or 10 yards and goes into another ball's pitch mark because the fairways are soft, you have to play it out of that. How does that work? You just hit one down the center cut of the fairway right where they're asking you, and now you're playing out of a divot or a pitch mark. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I understand that's the rule. Obviously, I play by the rules. Fun player competition, but there's nothing more agitating than walking up and you've hit one in the middle of the fairway and you're in a divot that someone's hacked the earth out of and it's 2 inches deep and you got to clear water and now you have no shot.
Yeah, Reid. I mean, I can't agree more. I think it's ridiculous. I think the only thing people like to quabble over is, what is a divot? Is how deep does a divot have to be for you to remove your ball from it? We all know what a divot is. Come on, guys. It's pretty self-explanatory. And you know what? If it really comes down to it and you need to call a marshal over to give a ruling, go for it. But we know when we're in a divot and we're not in a divot. Will it maybe cause some speed bumps right away? Yes, I could see that happening. Some guys slowing up play, trying to get a preferred lie all the time. But I think we can weed those guys out pretty quickly and make this a little better for everyone. I mean, we're not taking away from the skill, are we? Like, we're not like, oh man, this guy can't play out of a divot. That needs to be a skill that these tour players have or something like that. I don't think we're like missing out, right? If we're allowing them to, they did their job. They put the ball in the fairway. You can't ask them to miss divots. Obviously, that's insanity. What do you think, Stark?
Golf has some absolutely silly rules. We saw Rory smash one into the side of a bunker and get a free drop almost on the green at the U.S. Open. So if a guy hits a bomb down the fairway and we all know it's in the fairway and it lands into a divot, give him a drop. All right. It's, of course, the obvious answer. We all do it on Sunday mornings with our buddies. Hey, bud, I'm in a divot here. Can I move it? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. This isn't the, U.S. Open. But at the U.S. Open, they're doing it. They're giving drops like, handing them out like candy. So, yeah, make the change. Enough of that one. Simon asks, with Liv announcing a new season, will you guys be following along now that there's a potential merger coming?
I'm always paying attention in a broad scope of who's doing what in the world, world ranks. And obviously they're not in world rankings yet, but I think they will be with time to come. That being said, I think we're at a standstill to hear more from the PGA Tour. I mean, we obviously don't know anything right now. I don't know what to say more than, hey, look, I know what you know, and that's it. And my guess is as good as yours. And I can tell you that there's going to be some bigger events and different world ranking points and stuff given out in the future. When that comes, who knows? The structure will be changed. I can almost promise you that. When that comes, who knows? It might be 6 months. It might be 2 years. But yeah, I mean, I'll always keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. It's always interesting to see where the game's evolving to.
Yeah, the steam behind this whole Liv merger piff BS has definitely ran out, but it's left a haze of fog that we're all lost in right now, trying to figure out what's going on. And unfortunately, we just got to wait and see. The PGA Tour has been pretty quiet. Obviously, Monahan was reported to be going through some sort of health issue. Still don't even really know how he's doing on that front. I mean, it's been 2 weeks since that was reported. So we're in the wait and see period. I personally don't really follow Liv at all. I see who wins maybe, and I'm like, oh yeah, Brooks won. Okay, I should have picked him to do higher in the Masters this year in the PGA Championship. But maybe if I was paying attention, I could have cashed in a little more on that. But we'll see how Liv does. I think a lot of the consensus is, they're gonna try it. It might fall apart. Guys might return back to the PGA Tour. It might be some sort of off-season league where they do more team events. Who knows? But ultimately, it's happening. So cool. More golf for me to watch.
Yeah, no interest for me. Wasn't interested in Liv this year with some of the big names there. Same thing that you said, Nolan. Like, yeah, maybe it would come across my timeline that Charles Schwartzel won an event. Okay, I don't give a crap. But now that they're merging or joining or letting the players come back on, whatever you want to call it, why would they even make this announcement that Liv's having another season? What if they make this announcement and then of the 48 players that they currently have, the only ones left are Ian Poulter and Sergio Garcia? Is anyone going to care about Liv then? Not me. So no, I have no interest in Liv whatsoever. If they make it a team event end of season thing with some of the PGA players as well, I'm sure it won't even be called Liv. Then yeah, I'll follow that. But if it's the regular Liv tour with their F1 style standings, no interest. All right, our last question is from Rob. Tough one. Rob wants to know, when do we expect Tiger to come back? And will he ever come back?
Tiger's done, bro.
Whoa. Hold your horses.
Done.
Seriously, Reid?
He might play in the Masters again, but he'll never be competitive. He's done. We have seen the end of Tiger Woods competing for a win. We have seen the end of Tiger Woods competing for a top 25, maybe even. I think we're going to see the Tiger Woods compete for making cuts.
We'll see.
No cuts on the designated events next year, though.
Hey, yo.
Very true. Good point there, Stark. Good point.
Nothing like finishing T80.
When he won the Masters 2019, my boys were young, but they kind of got, they kind of understand it. I take them to the local golf course now, and they're like, hey, is Tiger going to be at the course today? It's like they don't understand, right? But I agree with Reid, man. Like, he looked bad at the Masters. I haven't almost lost my leg, but I've had plantar fasciitis. It is bad, and it lingers for a long, long time. I almost had it for like 8 months. I don't think he wants to play anymore. Is that weird to say too? Like, yeah, the Masters maybe a little bit, but if he knows he can't really compete, does he want to be out there? Does he want to be doing the whole interviews? Does he want to try to ramp it up? Sounds like he is going to play in this TGL starting in January, which is his league. It's indoors, it's virtual, no bad weather, not a lot of walking. He can just swing and go sit back down. So I think that's where we're going to see him play, and he'll do that and then rest up, play the Masters, take the summer off. Floor's yours, Nolan.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose, Stark. That's when we'll see him next at the TGL. We'll see if he gets, my goal for him is to get an event in before the Masters. I think he's obviously got that on his calendar. He wants to play the Masters, right? He wants to play it. He wants to compete. He's, in the past known if he can compete or not, and he'll sit out if he doesn't feel like his game's up to par. This is what he wants. I disagree with you about you're not sure if he wants to win anymore, or I think he's still got that fire. I think he feels like he's got another one in him. The dude has an intense burning flame within him to prove people wrong, and this is one more time he can go out there, he can prove everyone wrong, he can compete, he can show everyone who the greatest player of all time is. Will he ever get to Jack's records? No, that's not going to happen. I think we all know that. I think there's a chance we see him win one more major.
Oh, stop pulling the yarn, Nolan. It's not going to happen.
We'll see. We will see. There's some crazy stuff out there. Technology, healthcare, things happen. We might see him in a cart. Who knows?
No way.
If Phil can win at 50, Tiger freaking Woods can win at 50. That's how I'm going to leave it.
Thought I would never say this in my life, but Phil Mickelson is healthier than Tiger Woods right now.
Yeah, he is. He is. You can see it. He's got just that. Like, Phil still likes being out there too, Like, now he's kind of over all this nonsense, and he looked happy. He obviously had 2 great majors this year. He looked kind of happy to be out there and bouncing around. Just wait until he can get back on the PGA Tour. He can jump back in the booth too. Like, we're going to get a lot of Phil over the next 2 years.
Sadly.
Let's move on to our Bogey'd plays of the week, and I will kick us off. The Rocket Mortgage is obviously this week, but the Monday qualifier happened at Fieldstone, and it went to a playoff. There was 4 players for 3 spots to make it into the tournament. So these 4 players went out to play the first playoff hole. But it was over before they got to the fairway, and the 3 players to move on were determined. How so, you might ask? Well, because Hayden Springer of Texas accidentally had a 15th club in his bag and realized it in the fairway of the first playoff hole, called himself out on it. He's out. Those other 3 guys don't even need to finish the hole. They move on. There's been lots of chatter about what happened. Was he, chipping some balls around the green with a couple different wedges, feeling out which one he might want to take with him to the playoff, and then oops, forgot to remove one from the bag. Either way, he was this close to qualifying for a PGA Tour event, and that's gone because of a silly bogeyed mistake.
To me, this is another dumb freaking rule. Like, he hasn't hit a shot yet, right? Like, I don't even think he teed off, and they're DQing him. I mean, obviously, you and your caddy gotta know you can only have 14 clubs.
Yeah.
But it did not change what was going to happen, the outcome of that playoff, if they just go, hey, you got 15 clubs, you got to pull one out before we get going here.
But Reid, is that on the caddy, you think? You think that's a little bit on the caddy?
Always check the number of clubs. The last thing you do before you tee off.
There you go. You know the rules.
I see that side of it, but my goodness, just let him pull the club out and let's boogie down. Let's see who really is going to deserve and earns this spot.
Poor guy. I feel for him. I'm sure he's going to watch the tournament this weekend and be like, man, I could have been there. So, Nolan, what's your bogeyed of the week?
I finally got out and played this weekend. And, I mean, you can probably attest, Stark, once you're a dad, it's far and few between, it feels like.
Yeah.
You actually got to get out there. And the game has been pretty good. I've been working a lot of things. Started my front nine super well. I bogeyed the first hole. And, you know, as I think Jack famously says, like, you might as well bogey the first. You're going to make one. Might as well get it out of the way. Parred the next 8 holes, was in a groove. I was just making pars. It was not great golf. Let's not be crazy here. I wasn't like staring down birdie putts all day, but then proceeded to just fall apart. I'm throwing the bogeyed play on me this week. Couldn't keep it together. Shot like 7 over on the back. Went like double bogey to start the front nine, or that'd be the back 9. I think I double bogeyed from the fairway, guys. Not even hitting a hazard. It was bad. It was nasty. Had a great time though. You know, I was out there with a good buddy of mine, so always enjoy the company out there. It makes the bad scores taste a little better at the end of the day.
That's why I always love to have a little match with whoever I'm playing against, because sometimes if you have a couple bad holes, like you said, you throw a double or a triple or whatever in there, you're still like, hey, I just lost 1 hole. That's it. It's not like I'm down 4 strokes because he birdied and I had a double or triple. I gotta bounce back and win the next one, right? Match play. You're always in it. So
for sure,
that's what I love to do. Reid, your bogeyed of the week. What do you got for us?
Not so much a bogey this week. I'm going to call it my own birdie this week.
Yes.
I like that.
The reason I say that is because Zach Blair was coming off a major medical. And for those who don't know, in a minor medical or a major medical, the tour determines it. What that means is you're injured and you're unable to play due to an injury from playing, or what they determine deems you ineligible from playing when you have status. And they give you a certain number of events that you have to make X amount of dollars by to retain your PGA Tour status. Well, Zach Blair, this was his last tournament on the major medical. He needed to finish, I believe he needed to finish second. Solo second. He shoots 8 under on Sunday, finishes solo second. Zach Blair now has his tour card. You're talking about the slimmest of margins. You're talking about 110-footer he missed. You're talking about a 30-footer that he made. You're talking about a drive that kicked into the fairway, not into the rough. Whatever it is, that's pretty cool.
Dude, I am so glad you brought that up. That is the stuff we like to hear about out here. I mean, that's dreams. That's amazing. What a return for Zach. I hope he continues that good run, man.
Great story, and what a great way to finish it. We covered it all this week, from what might have been the easiest course these guys will see all year in Connecticut, talking shop with our good friend Colby, and giving you some great course insight into what to expect this week at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. We dove into some wild picks we're banking on this week and who you might stay clear of. After that, we wrapped it up with listener questions per usual and our bogeyed plays of the week. Thank you all for joining us and listening along. It was another fun week with Nolan and Reid and myself. Shout out to Kevin on the 1s and 2s. And remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bunker Township, and let's have ourselves a week.
That's tough. It's just, that is brutal. It could be an advantage.